Good day, everybody. This is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee and Appalachia. Today, I'm going to talk to you about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That's what they put in the Declaration of Independence, that you have God's given right to life, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. But you know, originally, it was not pursuit of happiness. Originally, it was property. So it should have read that God-given rights to life, liberty, and property. Because private property was a new concept over here in the United States. Well, the colonies and in the United States. Property ownership by a citizen was practically unheard of in Europe. The kings owned everything. Under feudalism, the kings owned all property. You were allowed to have an estate or property only because the king granted you that. If you ever fell out of favor with the king, then they would take your property away from you. Now, private property was a new concept in this country. And we created a deed, which they don't like to talk about anymore. Now you get what's called a trust deed or a warranty deed. And they can take your land away from you. If you fail to pay your property taxes or if you fail to pay your mortgage, they can take your land away from you. So when you sign up for a trust deed or a warranty deed, you don't own your property. You're just given the right to live on it as long as you pay certain people large amounts of money in mortgages and rent and property taxes. Then they let you think you own your property. And you can cut your own grass. And of course, if you live in an HOA area or a city with a lot of zoning ordinances, you don't have much say-so about what you do with your property. They can dictate. So, government has worked, government and banks, which they always work together to deprive the people of their wealth. They work together to diminish your ownership of property. But let me tell you something. There's a thing out there that they don't like to talk about. It's called a land grant deed. Now, these were real popular early if you paid cash. Now, the land grant deeds are hard to get in what's known as the original 13 colonies and the next couple of states like Tennessee and Kentucky. It's hard to get land grant deeds because the government wanted to control property. And like in Kentucky, Daniel Boone and a couple other explorers, Simon Keaton, and some of these guys that explored Kentucky, and they could put their marks on trees and that land automatically became theirs. Well, as soon as Kentucky was formed into a state, one of the first laws passed by the state legislature was to take all that land away from Simon Keaton and Daniel Boone and turn it over to real estate agents who gave the politicians a kickback, a percentage of all the land that was sold because there was so much money in selling property. And so they took all this land away. Daniel Boone was so upset. They did leave him, I think, 360 acres, left Simon Keaton 360 acres. But that was all. The state took the rest of it away from them. And turned it over to real estate agents to sell, and of course the legislators, they got a percentage. And Daniel Boone was so upset he moved to Arkansas, the Indian Territory. He went out there and said, "To hell with civilization. You know, they're just a bunch of thieves." And so he moved out there and lived with the Cherokees and the Indians. And I think he died out there somewhere in the Indian Territory. What was called Indian Territory, till the white men decided they wanted that land too. So, and they took it away from the Indians there. Poor old Indians finally ended up on reservations, which are ran and controlled by the government. You know, so the Indians didn't even own their reservations. It's, you know, they ended up no land at all. But when the government decided they wanted to sell a lot of land and sell it fast, they came up with a thing called a land grant deed. If you paid cash for your property, back then it was about $1 an acre, and you could buy sections like 160 acres or 320 acres or 640 acres, or some wealthy people bought thousands of acres. But if you paid cash for your land up front, you got a land grant deed, and nobody could take that away from you. There were no property taxes at that time in those areas, so you didn't have to worry about government taking your land away from you over property taxes. You didn't have to worry about the banks taking your land away from you over mortgages, because you owned your land free and outright, and the government could not take it away from you. And that law still exists today. If you have a land grant deed on your property, now I checked here in Tennessee, if you can trace your land all the way back to the original grants, which were land grants, and if it was originally a land grant deed, you can bring that down to, if your land is paid for, you can bring it down to your current day. But the land has to be paid for, no mortgage on it, and you still have to pay property taxes. And the government can come in with guns and take your land away from you if you fail to pay your property taxes. So actually, a land grant deed is not that great here in Tennessee right now, but out west of the Mississippi River and out in there, if you got a good solid land grant deed and your land's paid for, the government cannot take it away from you. And the land, what they call the Land Management Agency of the federal government, they can't take your land away from you. You got that land grant deed, buddy, you're in good shape. But originally, the God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was originally God-given right to life, liberty, and property. And private ownership of property should be made stronger in this country. Take the government's right and the bank's right to take your land away from you. That should be removed. Now in Florida, it's real hard for anybody to take the land away from you in Florida. If you own a home in Florida, buddy, ain't nobody can take it away from you. That's why O.J. Simpson got his butt down to Florida after he lost that civil case over those murders out there in California. When he lost that civil case, property ownership in California didn't do him a bit of good. So he moved to Florida where he could own a home without those people in California running him down and taking everything away from him, because they couldn't do that in Florida. And we should have that right in every state. In fact, property taxes should be abolished in every state. that is just a way for government to oppress the people over their property ownership, and we should not have that situation. I don't think we would have uh, all these people homeless today if property was sacrosanct. But government can take your land away from you over property taxes, and the banks, if you borrow money against your property, the banks can take your property away from you. And I don't think you should be able to borrow money against your property. That's you know, they'll get rid of mortgages, outlaw property taxes in this country. You shouldn't have to pay for your property every year, even after you've paid it off. If you borrow money and pay on a house for 20 years or 15 years or 30 years, and you pay it off, you shouldn't have to pay property taxes after that. You shouldn't have to pay taxes anyway. And that's just horrifying that we've given up those rights in this country. We should go back to God-given life, liberty, and property. Pursuit of happiness, that's bullshit. There's no reality to pursuit of happiness. Nobody's ever legally defined pursuit of happiness. It's never been written into the law. But property could easily be written into the law, and your right to property should be guaranteed, as is life and liberty and freedom, and your right to carry a gun, your right to property should be sacrosanct, and that should be put in there. Not that life, liberty, and that dream pursuit of happiness. That's a damn dream. That's not reality. Reality is property, something you can touch, something that's real. And that should be protected, and that should be your God-given right. It was originally, but these men who were writing the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Thomas Jefferson originally had property in there, but they said, no, we're government. We've got to be able to take that property if we need it. And so there you go. They put that crap in there about pursuit of happiness. And that's ephemeral, it's not real, and property is real. And we should go back to the original meanings. And the reason why man came across that cold, stormy Atlantic to come to a land where they could own property and have true life, liberty, and property. God-given rights to life, liberty, and property. And this is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee and Appalachia, where people moved to get away from government and their ability to take your property from you. Owning property in Appalachia, it was too hard for anybody to come and take it away from you, so they would leave you alone. That's why a lot of the Scottish and Irish people moved into the Appalachians to get away from government and their pursuit of your property, and or they could live with the real God-given right to life, liberty, and property. And this is your hillbilly historian coming to you from East Tennessee here in Appalachia. You have a good day.